name's Charity. So I'm currently, well, I was interning with GBS over the summer, and now I'm just working with them remotely in Logan. I'm finishing up my last semester at Utah State, so not too far from here. So yeah, as she said, I'm going to be giving a presentation today on making moves to manage stress. And a lot of the times I feel like when people hear about stress, it's kind of like, oh no, another presentation on stress, you know? Because it's something I feel like we hear about all the time, we talk about all the time. Yet, funnily enough, one of the reasons why health professionals focus so much on stress is it's something that is really, really prevalent among the working class of Americans, yet it's something that we do the least amount about. We hardly do anything about it, right? And until it's farther down the road and we have some major health complication, which probably could have been reduced largely because of chronic stress that we've experienced over our life. And so the whole point of this presentation today is to basically just help you understand, have a better understanding of stress and the health implications that it could potentially cause in your life. So if you go ahead and go to the next slide. So, and you'll have to excuse the formatting. I don't think the updates are up all the way, so it's a little weird, but it's fine. Anyway, so stress in the workplace, just in case you're wondering, so 77% of people in the United States regularly experience physical symptoms caused by stress. We're talking about physical symptoms, we're talking about like high blood pressure or maybe just like tension that they feel all the time, maybe back pain or neck pain, something like that that's caused from stress that they experience in their daily life. Almost half of Americans report that their stress levels have increased over the past 5 years. And almost half say that stress has a negative impact on their personal and professional life, right? So when you look at those percentages, that's pretty huge, right? And we have basically almost a majority are talking about the implications that stress has in their life. And about a third of people in the US report that they are living with extreme stress, right? And that's something that we especially want to stay away from, because if we're having extreme stress that you're living with, that chronic stress is what's going to cause negative health implications down the road. So in case you're interested, the annual cost to U.S. employers, which you might not care about because you're employees, but this actually comes out right in your cost as well as employees, right? Because employers are paying about $300 billion a year annually on stress-related healthcare absenteeism. So basically anything related to, any health implications related to stress, which those are your employer's dollars, but those are also your dollars, right? Because that's the money you're going to be putting in if you have health problems or whatever that you're experiencing with stress down the road. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so today health professionals have considered stress an epidemic in the Western world. So on our half of the hemisphere, it is something that is so prevalent and it's spreading like crazy. And the most interesting thing about stress is that it has both positive and negative implications in the lives of working Americans. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, just about the different kinds of stress. Because there is good stress, but there's also bad stress. And so we just need to make sure that we are understanding what stress is and we're having a good balance of it. And so today we're going to talk about how to combat stress through understanding what it is, techniques that we can develop in order to have a better awareness of it, and also specifically through physical activity and exercise and how important that can lead in decreasing our stress. Go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about what stress is, understanding the different types of stress. Then we're going to talk about the physiological response to stress, so what your body does when you're stressed out physically, and the negative implications that that could potentially cause. Then we're going to talk about stress management techniques, so things we can do as individuals in order to decrease our stress, right? Because as I mentioned, stress is something that's super prevalent, yet it's something that hardly any Americans do anything about. And yet it's really easy to do something about on a daily basis, but it's just something we need to be aware of and something we need to be doing consistently. Then we're going to talk about something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, for an acronym of NEAT, and we'll go in a little bit about that, but that's essentially just the activities we do other than like exercise and sleeping and eating that can also increase movement and help us steer away from sedentary lifestyles. And then we're going to talk about some daily office space workouts, but we're not going to do a workout, we're just going to do some stretches. And I actually have a handout for you at the end to kind of help you be aware of just some stretches and movement and things throughout the day. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. So understanding what stress is. Go ahead to the next one. So what is stress? So I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with it, right? It's any type of physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension, okay? So whether that's, physical, you're lifting a whole bunch of boxes throughout the day, or you're sitting a certain way and you have a bad posture at work, that could, potentially lead to stress on your body. Or, maybe you're having a really emotional day, or something happened with your family that's causing you to feel stress, or with a certain relationship. The next one. Another great definition is basically, or when the demands placed on you exceed your ability to meet those demands. So for example, let's say you go to work and they say, I need this 5-page report or whatever due in an hour. And you're just like, there's no way I could possibly meet that demand right now. There's no way I could write a 5-page paper in an hour. Go to the next one. So there's two main types of stress. There's distress and eustress, and we're going to talk about those a little bit in a little bit more detail. But it's just kind of important to know that not all stress is bad, right? And there's different types of stress, and recognizing the different types of stress and when we want to have those types of stress will also help us manage it more effectively. So what causes stress? So stressors, obviously, is what they're called. Anything from minor hassles, major changes, demand overload, or feeling helpless. So minor hassles, we're talking about like, maybe you're on your way to work and you hit traffic in the morning, okay? Maybe that's not super common here, but that's just an example, right? A minor hassle where you're just kind of frustrated and you're late to work, okay? Or you wake up in the morning and you can't find your keys. It's a good example. That could be a stressor. To something major, like maybe you're changing your career or you're changing your job, okay? That's gonna be a major stressor. Other things that cause stress are basically any situation or pressures that initiate the stress survival response. And we'll talk about that as well, about how our bodies actually are built to respond to stress. It's like the fight or flight response, right? Survival-wise. But sometimes if we're doing those for extended periods of time, then that can cause negative health implications. So, talking about those more in depth, so you have acute stress. This is very intense, short-lived, meaning lasts for about 0 to 20 minutes. So let's say you're driving to work and a car starts turning into your lane and almost hits you, and you slam on the brakes and you honk your horn. And all of a sudden you start feeling your heart rate start to quicken, right? You start breathing, you feel that adrenaline. That's acute stress, you feel that all of a sudden it's kind of automatic stress. Chronic stress, this is ongoing, so it's going to have a lot of physiological implications, right? It's less intense, but it can endure for hours, days, weeks, or years. And this is the stress that we really want to stay away from, okay? Especially if we're having chronic distress, as I'll talk about in a second. But something that's going to last a long time, you may not see the physical effects of it right away, but down the road it's what could lead to cardiovascular problems or other health implications as well, which we'll talk about. So eustress, a lot of people, when they think of stress, it has just usually a really negative connotation, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm so stressed out at work, or I'm so stressed out with my family, or whatever. But there is a perceived positive stress, and the acronym for that is if it's nice or new or interesting or challenging or exciting. So even when you get excited about something, that's eustress, right? It's something a way your body responds in order for you to step up to complete the task. So a good example of eustress might be like a roller coaster ride, okay? So that's a stressful event on your body, but it's eustress, right? It's exciting, or it's new, or fun, or whatever. And distress is your perceived negative stress. So that's when you're given a stressor or a task, or you're in a situation that's going to cause negative implications. So we really want to stay away from distress, and we want to stay away from more than that chronic distress. So if you're really stressed out at work and you're just really struggling at work, or you're really struggling with your family, or you're struggling with finances that's causing you stress for years and years and years, that's what's going to ultimately could cause potential health problems in the future. Okay, so I just want you to take a second and turn to the person next to you in little groups, and I want you to kind of talk about with them what you believe are either your common stressors personally, like things that stress you out on a daily basis or a yearly basis or whatever. Or you can also just talk about it, maybe what you and your coworkers feel like is a stressor for you, or yeah, the people you work with. So go ahead and just take a few seconds, turn to the people next to you, and then we'll kind of talk about it and share. So go, if you want to slide over there. I'm going to make you move. I don't see talking back there. Oh, you did it already? Oh, you're just fast. Okay, efficient. Good. All right, so let's hear just a couple things from a couple people of just common stressors for you personally, or for others that you think. I heard you talking.
Getting kids to school on time.
Yeah, okay, that's a perfect example, right? Getting your kids on school to time in the morning. That's a common stressor that happens every single day, and no matter what you do about it, that's not something that you can just get rid of, right? And just eliminate that from your life. All right, what's something else that's a common stressor? Kids' sports schedules, right? Okay, perfect, yeah. So those are really great examples because those are perfect examples of stress that we experience every single day, which, depending on our perception of it and how we manage it, could potentially be negative or it could potentially be positive on our body and our physical health. So here's the top 7 stressors in the United States, in case you're curious. I'm sure they're not very surprising to you. Number 1, job pressure, which makes sense, right? Number 2, money or finances. Number 3, health. 4, relationships, so family relationships, coworker relationships, neighbor relationships, romantic relationships, doesn't matter, any sort of relationship. 5 is poor nutrition, bet you didn't know that, but depending on how you eat, that can actually cause stress on your body. 6, media overload. So we're living in a time, right, where there's lots of media, lots of electronics, and media overload can cause us stress. 7 is sleep deprivation. So that's also something that we'll talk a little bit about later when we talk about the physical implications that stress can have on you. But sleep deprivation is huge in helping you live a stress-free lifestyle. So, is it good to have no stress? No. Why? Because we need it. Yeah, we need it to live, right? We mentioned earlier getting your kids to school on time, right? If you didn't feel the stress of getting them to school on time, then they would never be on time to school, right? Or if we wanted to eliminate that stressor that was causing us stress, then your kids wouldn't go to school, you know? And so it just doesn't make sense. So we have to have some stress, right? Our bodies were built to have stress in order for us to be driven, in order for us to accomplish tasks, and in order to survive, right? Go to the next one. So it's kind of difficult to see on the TVs, but you can see it on here. So, excuse me. Here's a little diagram for you. So if we have positive and negative implications of stress, and if we have low stress on the bottom and high stress. So if we have low stress, we're completely stress-free, we're gonna get bored, okay? And that's not good because we don't wanna get bored, right? So if you've ever had a job where you have zero stress or you have, you know, it's really monotonous or something, it could be really boring because you're not challenging yourself and you're not stepping up to it. If you have too much stress, it's gonna cause distress and you're gonna get burnt out, right? And so then you're also going to have negative performance. But if you have a good balance of stress and work, you're going to have positive performance, and that we call that your peak performance, where you have just enough stress to make sure that you're being productive, that you're completing tasks, but it's not too much that you're getting burnt out. And that's called eustress. So that's our happy spot. So you go to the next one. Okay, so we're going to talk about the physiological responses to stress, right? So a lot of you have heard of this, like the fight or flight before, right? So our bodies naturally have 3 responses to stress. We either fight, which means we step up to the plate and we're like, okay, I've got to tackle this thing. We either flight, meaning we just kind of run away from it, or we just avoid it, or we don't even think about it. or we freeze, which is kind of when you think about a stressful situation where you kind of just go into shock and you're just like, I don't know what to do. A really good example to help you think of this is if you think of, if, I don't know if any of you are into hunting, but if you're hunting an animal, right, and you came upon them in the woods and they saw you, they would either freeze, or if it was a bear, it might come attack you, or it might run away, okay? And that's kind of what our survival instinct is as human beings as well when we're talking about stress. A lot of the stress we talk about isn't physical, right? It's not, we're usually not threatened with our physical safety every single day, but we're talking about more mental stress, and so it can apply to that as well. So here, we're gonna talk about the immediate effects. Just go ahead and click. So increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased respiration, increased blood clotting, increased metabolic activity for fight or flight, and your immune response is suppressed, and your digestive system is suppressed. So if you look at these immediate effects, some of them, it could be good or bad, right? So let's say you're in a car, you're driving on the road, someone almost crashes into you, it causes a stressful response. It'd be good for you to have increased heart rate because your body would need to react quickly in order to maneuver out of that situation, right? And a lot of those things can be beneficial if your body is trying to, quote unquote, survive or whatever, right? It's like your body is making changes really quickly so you can fight the stress. Increased blood clotting, right? So it could increase your healing if it's good. Increased metabolic activity for fight or flight, meaning you just have more energy, like adrenaline, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately, your immune response is suppressed. So this makes sense because your body is going into survival mode, so it's automatically shutting down systems that it doesn't need to survive. Your immune system is your defense against sickness, right? It doesn't need that to survive at that very moment, so it's going to suppress that. And your digestive system is suppressed, so it's going to shut down that system as well. So if you're in a survival situation, right, these would be really good. But you can also look at it controversially. It could also be really negative, right? If we have chronic stress and we have increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased respiration, and we have a suppressed immune system, and you have that for a long period of time, that's not going to be good, right? Because that's what's going to lead to cardiovascular problems. And that's why when you get really stressed out for a long period of time, you're also more susceptible to sickness because your immune system is responsive. And why also chronic stress can lead to weight gain because your digestive system is suppressed as well. Go to the next one. So we're going to talk about the effects of unmanaged stress. So we're talking this whole time, right? The association between stress and disease is really huge. There's a really strong correlation, which is why I'm here talking to you about it today, because if we can understand how to manage it, we can make sure that it will not have such a negative association with disease in our future. Something it affects is your blood sugar levels, so you can have an increased chance for diabetes. So I actually myself am a type 1 diabetic, and when I'm really stressed out, my blood sugars get really difficult to manage. They'll get really high or really low, and it's really hard for me to manage them. So that's something that I'm like, yeah, I can attest to that. Serum lipids, when we're talking about those, we're talking about like your cholesterol levels, HDL, LDL, and higher level, if you have high cholesterol, right, that's going to lead to the cardiovascular disease. And suppressed immune system. So over time, there's been studies that show if you have a suppressed immune system, that's going to increase your likeliness for cancer, viruses, or bacterial infections. And even if you get those, your healing process could be slowed as well because your body doesn't have the energy it needs to fight it. So continuing, so unmanaged stress is also associated with overeating, right? A lot of people use food as a coping mechanism when they're really stressed out. Weight gain, right? You have a suppressed digestive system. High blood pressure, which makes sense, high blood sugar, insomnia, people who have trouble sleeping at night. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not sleeping for 3 hours a night, but if you wake up consistently throughout the night, or you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like you got enough rest, or you don't feel rested even though you got 8 or 9 hours of sleep. Your wounds heal slower, right? Your body's ability to heal is slowed because it's worried about other things. And then huge studies talk about the correlation, right, with stress and depression and anxiety and mental disorders. And then it can also cause relationship issues. And again, those relationships can be family, romantic, friends, coworkers, etc. So we're going to talk about some stress management techniques. Now that I've stressed you out with everything that can happen with stress, we're going to talk about how we can manage this. Okay, so we're going to break it down into 3 things. So we're going to change how we think about stress. We want to change what we say about stress. And we want to change what we're going to do about stress. And there's actually a really interesting study. So if you have, when you think of stress in a negative light, right, your body will constrict its blood vessels and they'll harden, and it'll constrict the blood flow to your heart, right, because you're tense. And that's what causes the negative implications over time, because then you can have higher blood pressure, higher chance of cardiovascular problems, etc. However, there's a really interesting study that talks about if you can perceive stress instead of in a negative light, but perceive it in a positive light. So let's say, for example, in the morning you're getting your kids ready for school. And you're like, oh man, this is stressing me out. I need to get them on time. Hurry, 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 hurry. And you're feeling that tension and you're feeling that tightness. If you can think about it instead in, okay, I'm stressed out, but it's okay. My body is stepping up to the challenge, and I'm feeling the pressure, but it's good because it's making me move more quickly. And it's making me understand the importance of getting my kids to school. So if you can think of it in a positive light, as a way that your body is responding in order to accomplish the task, stress can have the same effects that joy has on your body. And when the body experiences joy, your blood vessels become relaxed, and it allows more blood flow to the heart. And so it's really interesting, like we were talking about earlier, stress is something that's needed, and it can actually have a positive effect on our body, depending on what we think about it, what we say about it, and what we do about it. So go to the next one. So we cannot have a maxed out, sleep-deprived, stressed out, electronically distracted workforce and expect good things to happen, right? We need to make sure there's balance in that. So here are 10, there's a lot of ways to manage stress, but here are 10 kind of, I guess you could say, ideas or methods that have been proven to really help with stress reduction. So number 1, start mental training. So change the way we think about stress. And that, like the example we give is meditation, but even, like the example I gave of just thinking about when you have a stressful situation, trying to think of it in a positive light instead of a negative light. And really or taking the time, maybe it's just taking a 5-minute brain break during the day, and you're just really stressed out about something, you got off a stressful phone call, and you're just like, okay, I just need a minute to kind of breathe, relax, and just think for a minute and just kind of relax. Number 2 is establish strong, healthy boundaries. By that we mean it's good to have stress, but we don't want to have too much, right? So obviously you need to have a job, but we don't want you working 16 hours a day and then going home and spending 4 or 5 hours with your family and getting no sleep, right? You want to make sure that you have a good balance between what you're doing at work, your responsibilities at home, time with family, time with friends, other responsibilities, whatever it may be, but that you're balancing it. We don't want you to be workaholics. Number 3 is muscle tension relief. The example we give is massage. So a lot of people do that. There's a lot of studies that talk about how massage can decrease your stress and release your muscle tension. But you don't need to do massage if you don't have the resources for that. Simply stretching is a great way to just relax your muscles. So if you feel tense or you feel like you're stressed out, just kind of whatever you want to do, stretch it out. When I'm really stressed out, I always put my arms behind my back, stretch my neck, something like that to kind of just release my muscle tension. Number 4 is get active. And by that we just mean doing something every day, not living a sedentary lifestyle, making sure that you exercise. We're going to talk about exercise more in depth when we get and the huge impact that exercise can have on our stress coping capabilities. Number 5, find something to laugh about. There's lots of studies that talk about, literally show that if people who are happier and who laugh more can live longer. Laughter is the best medicine, and we want to be able to make sure that we're having, because the effect of joy and happiness has really good physical effects on our body. 6, get a good night's sleep. That's through healthy sleep hygiene. And what I mean by healthy sleep hygiene is establishing a bed routine. Right before you go to bed, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to get in my pajamas, I'm going to take 10 minutes to sit in my bed and meditate or think about something, or I'm going to take 10 minutes to read a book, and then I'm going to go to bed. And especially with healthy sleep hygiene, it's really important that you limit your electronic use at least 30 minutes before you go to bed. So by that, we're talking about like TV or your phones, right, which are huge because I am guilty of that. I'll sit in my bed and I'll scroll my phone or I'll watch videos or whatever. But actually the blue light that's emitted from the screens is absorbed through our eyes, and it's the same light that we receive from the sun during the day. And so our bodies are trying to be awake when we are exposing ourselves to that kind of light right before we go to bed. So it kind of confuses our brains. And so we might not have as restful sleep nights when we do that. Go natural, by this we just mean making sure you're spending time in nature. There's a ton of studies that talk about how spending time in nature also decrease our amount of stress and kind of getting away from that urban or office atmosphere. Lean on your friends, and not just friends, but also family, making sure that you're taking time to socialize, build relationships with people, with your family, with your friends. Create a relaxation survival kit. By this, we mean, everybody's different, but just things that that relax you. So I've had some friends say when I'm really stressed out, I'll put like lavender on my temples or something. Or I make sure that I have a really soothing, what are those called? Your back screen image on your computer. You know what I'm talking about? Desktop screen, whatever. Or anything, like if you're feeling really stressed out, I'm gonna have a piece of dark chocolate that helps me release stress, or whatever it may be. But just something for you that or I'm gonna do some breathing exercises. I know that helps me release stress. And lastly, get in tune with music therapy. That also can include art therapy as well, or just any type of activity that's gonna help you to decrease stress. And there's a whole bunch of studies that actually talk about music therapy and helping with a lot of psychological disorders. And so, like listening to a song, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna listen to a song, it's gonna calm me down, right? That can be really beneficial as well. Okay, so we're gonna do a stress relaxing activity right now. Are you excited? So this is a method of stress release. It's kind of fun, so just humor me, okay? But it's called guided imagery, and believe it or not, there's people who do this all the time. So it's kind of like when you go to yoga and they tell you to imagine something, but it's actually a great way to reduce stress. And so you can do this at nighttime if you're having a hard time falling asleep, or if you're at work and you're having a really stressful day. Is just think of a place that's peaceful, right? This one I'm gonna read it to you, but I want everyone to participate, okay? So everyone get comfortable, and you're gonna sit in a supportive chair, just kind of relax, roll your shoulders a little bit, and release any areas of tension. I want you to make your arms go limp, kind of relax them, maybe loosen up your neck or whatever you need to do. Okay, so I want you to all breathe deeply into your diaphragm and allow the air to fill your lungs. So just take one deep breath through the nose and slowly let it out through the mouth. Okay, do it one more time. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, I want everyone to close their eyes, okay? And just kind of relax. Make sure you don't feel any tension in your arms or in your legs. Your shoulders are nice and relaxed. Your neck is nice and relaxed, and you're just sitting comfortably. Take one more deep breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth slowly. All right. I want you to imagine in your mind you are walking toward the ocean, walking through a beautiful tropical forest. You can hear the waves up ahead. You can smell the ocean spray. The air is moist and warm, and you feel a pleasant, cool breeze that's blowing through the trees. You walk along a path, slowly getting closer to the ocean. As you come to the edge of the trees, you see the brilliant aqua color of the ocean ahead. You walk out of the forest and onto a long stretch of white, hot sand. The sand is very soft, almost like a powder. Imagine taking off your shoes and walking through this hot, white sand toward the water. The beach is wide and long. You look to both sides of you, and it seems to go on endlessly. You hear the waves crashing to the shore and crashing into the rocks. You take a deep breath in and you can smell the clean salt water and the beach. You gaze again toward the water. It is a bright blue-green. See the waves washing up onto the sand and receding back toward the ocean, washing up and receding back, washing up and receding back. Enjoy the ever-repeating rhythm of the waves. Imagine yourself walking toward the water over the fine, hot sand. You are feeling very warm. As you approach the water, you can feel the mist from the ocean as it splashes on your skin. You walk closer to the waves and feel the sand becoming wet and firm. A wave washes over the sand toward you and touches your toes right before receding again. As you step forward, more waves wash over your feet, and you feel the cool water provide relief from the hot sand. Walk further into the clear, clean water. You can see the white sand under the water. The water is pleasant, a relaxing temperature, providing relief and refreshment from the hot sun. It's cool, but not cold. You walk further into the water if you wish, and you enjoy the ocean for a few minutes. Allow this visualization and relaxation to deepen as you enjoy the ocean. Now you are feeling completely calm and refreshed. You walk back out of the water and onto the beach. You continue to stroll along the beach at the water's edge, free of worries, no stress, enjoying this calm moment on this hot, warm summer day. Up ahead is a comfortable lounge chair and a towel just for you. You sit down or lie down in the chair, or you can spread the towel on the sand, and you relax on the chair or towel, enjoying the sun, the breeze, and the sound of the ocean waves. You feel peaceful and relaxed, and you allow all your stress to melt away. When you're ready, you can return from your vacation, and you can do it slowly, but you can bring yourself back to alertness and awareness by slowly opening your eyes, but keeping that feeling of calm, peacefulness, and relaxation. Are we feeling relaxed? Good. Even if you don't tell me. No, it's okay. But that was just kind of a fun activity to kind of show that the mind is really powerful, and the way we think about and perceive things can really have a physical effect on our bodies, right? So hopefully you feel relaxed after just having a few minutes of thinking about that. Go ahead to the next slide. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on is just the importance of exercise and stress, right? We know that there's a huge correlation between exercise and stress, and we often say as health professionals, if exercise were in pill form, everyone would be taking it, right? Because the benefits are just so huge, not only physically, but just mentally and emotionally as well. So number one, it releases endorphins, which endorphins make you happy. Those are a hormone released by the brain that increases our happiness level. It decreases your stress hormones, such as the cortisol and things like that, so you don't have an overabundance of those. It increases your level of energy, which is counterintuitive to what a lot of people think. They're like, oh, I worked 8 hours today. I'm so exhausted. I don't want to go home and go work out for an hour or however long because I'm just going to be more tired. But conversely, actually, when you exercise regularly, it actually increases your energy, because what's happening is your body is becoming stronger. Your muscles are becoming stronger, and so they have more energy throughout the day. It improves your sleep. If we're exercising regularly, we're going to have more restful sleep when we go to bed at night. It relieves tension, and it's really interesting because exercise is stress on your body physically. So it's interesting because we're kind of putting stress on our body, but by doing that, we're relieving stress because our body has that stress built up in our bodies. And it also makes you more resilient to future stressors, because if you're happy and your body is stronger, you're also going to have a greater your immune system's going to be stronger, and you're going to be able to combat future stress more effectively. Okay, so these are the types of exercise. So there's two types. You have cardiovascular and we have strength training. by cardiovascular, there's two subcategories underneath that. You can either do moderate exercise or vigorous exercise. So moderate is like walking, cleaning, bicycling. So if you're cleaning your house, it's considered moderate exercise, okay? And if we're doing moderate exercise, we want to make sure it's about 150 minutes a week. So however many minutes a day you want to do that, but we want to make sure we're doing 150 minutes. If we choose to do vigorous cardiovascular exercise, vigorous meaning like hiking, running, jogging, swimming, or intense bicycling or cycling, we need to make sure we're doing 75 minutes a week of that. So less time, but more intense. And then strength training, we want to make sure we're doing that 2 days a week, and the time on that varies, usually about a minimum of 30 minutes up to an hour. And strength training, that's when you think of, like a lot of time when people think of exercising, they think of going to the gym and lifting a ton of weights or going really hard or whatever. So your strength training, that would be like you're lifting weights or yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, Insanity, etc. But that's only 2 days a week. So it's really just 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes a week of vigorous, and 2 days of strength training. And so those are all things that are going to help you if you can make sure you maintain those requirements. Those are going to keep your overall stress levels relatively low. Quick stress remedies. So let's say you're at work and you're feeling really stressed out. Just doing, jump rope, or I don't know if you have a jump rope at your office, but like stair climbing, just go walk up the stairs a few times, or push-ups, or sometimes like I'll just do calf raises or something, or just something that's kind of like a quick stress reliever that's going to put some stress on our body. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is it's a non-exercise activity. It's called a non-exercise activity thermogenesis. The acronym is NEAT. And this is essentially, if you go to the next slide, so NEAT means the energy we expend for everything we do outside of sleeping, eating, and exercise. So sitting here right now, you guys are utilizing energy in your body, and your body's burning calories. And so the idea behind NEAT is kind of just the idea of steering away from a sedentary lifestyle and making sure that we're incorporating more consistent movement in our lives throughout the day on a more consistent basis. So for example, like walking to work, typing is an idea like NEAT. Like if you're typing, that's, you're expending energy. Performing yard work, doing agricultural tasks, or fidgeting in your desk, like moving your leg or rolling your ankles. Those are all things that contribute to NEAT that help us kind of maintain more activity throughout the day. So here's a quote from, Polly DeMille, who's an RN in exercise physiology. It takes energy calories to move even the smallest muscle. So, for example, you burn about 1.5 calories per minute just laying still while your body performs its most basic functions. So at nighttime, every single minute, when you're sleeping, you're burning 1.5 calories, okay? If you go from lying down to sitting in a chair and then to answering an email and typing, you'll burn 25% more calories. So the idea behind this is just to show that if we can somehow incorporate more movement throughout our daily activities, then we're going to increase, I guess, the amount, not necessarily exercise, but we're going to steer away from that sedentary lifestyle and have more movement, which can be beneficial as far as health-wise. So, if we go to the next one. Okay, so people who sit fewer than 3 hours a day live around 3 years longer than more sedentary peers. So that's kind of like the idea behind NEAT, or non-exercise thermogenesis, is the idea that we don't want to just be sitting around all day, but we want to make sure that even if we are sitting at our office or we're sitting in the car, that we're being conscientious of our movements and making sure that we're moving more so. And sitting for extended amounts of time has been linked to heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity, all those things, and that's kind of why we talk about it. Go to the next one. So, how to become more NEAT? So, make appointments to move. Get up hourly. Set a timer, okay? If you're driving, you should technically stop every hour and get up and move. Walk to talk to a coworker instead of just sending an email. Get up and out of your desk, walk to them, chat along the way. Then you're also taking care of your social health as well. Drink more water. So if you're drinking more water, then your body's going to take energy to digest that water. And also hydration gives our body more energy as well. It helps us feel more awake. Stand and stretch after every email you send. Or, not even standing up, but just like doing rolling your wrists, rolling your ankles, stretching your neck, whatever. Just making sure that we're not just sitting in one position for 8 hours a day, doing nothing. Or during a commercial break when you're watching TV at home, getting up and moving, being aware that we're not just sitting on the couch watching a TV show or sports for 2 or 3 hours and not moving. Go to the next one. Or add in more steps. So, park further away at the grocery store so you have to walk farther. Get off the bus one stop prior to your destination. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Purchase a pedometer. That's not really, people don't really purchase pedometers anymore because there's apps on your smartphones, right, that will track your steps, or Fitbits or Apple Watches or whatever you have. Pace when you're talking on the phone. Don't sit and talk, stand up. Or raise your heels up and down if you're standing somewhere for a long time, standing in line, just moving. Or invest in a stability ball. So, a stability ball in the office would be nice. Like in my office, we have stability balls, which is really nice because then we can move during the day or we can stand up or whatever. But even, like sitting in a chair at home that you have to rock on or something, you know what I mean? And like moving your body, that's something that's going to incorporate more movement. Go to the next one. So here's just kind of the last thing I want to end on, just to kind of show you the neat activities and how many calories you can burn based on your weight. And a lot of people are like, well, what if I weigh more than 200 pounds? I know, I'm sorry, I didn't think about that, but it shouldn't matter because you get a good idea. But this just shows, so cleaning, fishing, if you go fishing and you weigh 200 pounds in that activity, you're going to burn 300 calories. So that'll be more of an incentive to go fishing than to just sit at home and watch TV or whatever you do. Gardening, you know what I mean? Or typing data entry, like doing something on your computer instead of just sitting and scrolling on your phone, or whatever. Or pushing a stroller, going on a walk, all those types of things. All these activities are things that we can do every single day that aren't necessarily exercise, eating, or sleeping. And to kind of give you an interesting, not statistic, but little piece of information. So your body every single day is managing about 8.6 million joules of energy. So joules is just a measurement of energy. To put that in perspective for you, a stick of dynamite utilizes about 2 million joules of energy. So your body is managing about 4 sticks of dynamite worth of energy every single day. So that's pretty significant, right? So we have a lot of energy inside of our bodies, and we just want to make sure that we're using that energy, and the more energy we can expend, the more we can steer away from a sedentary lifestyle, which can ultimately increase our overall exercise and ultimately help us decrease stress, right? Yeah, can we go to the next one? So that's all I have as far as information-wise, and I want to finish. Well, first of all, are there any questions? Did it make sense? Clear as mud? Okay, so I just kind of want to give you this handout. These are 1-minute office stretches. I'm assuming most of you work in the office. Is there anyone who doesn't? No? You all work in the office? Okay. So these are great activities that you can do while you're just sitting at your desk. Oh, thanks. So if you set a timer, right? Every hour your timer goes off and it's like, I need to get up and move, right? So there's one for the neck, hands and wrists, upper back and shoulders, lower back. And you can do this while you're just sitting down in your office, working at your computer or whatever you're doing. And so, there's 2 there. Sorry. Thank you. And one for Mariana. So if you just look at this, for example, a lot of these you probably don't think about doing, but it can be beneficial and it contributes to NEAT, right? So lower your ear to your shoulder, then roll your chin to your chest. So that's just like the usual. Put your head to your side, roll it all the way over, and then roll it back. Taking time to move it. If you look down, hands and wrists, circle your wrists inwards and then outwards, just stretching them. Those movements are good. Repeat it 10 times, Or upper back and shoulders, rolling your shoulders while you're sitting in your chair. lower back, bending to one side in your chair or whatever, or just even standing up at your desk and just doing calf raises. But all of these are just 1-minute office stretches. So I just want to encourage you to try and incorporate more movement throughout your day, encourage you to incorporate more exercise throughout your week, and then also participate in any of those stress-reducing activities that I talked about today in the presentation to help you decrease that overall stress so that you can manage it in a more effective way. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions? All right, you're free to go. I don't have anything else to say.